Hi! Today we're going to be making some cinnamon raisin bread. Now in this video I do use a bread machine to make my dough, but you don't need a bread machine to make this cinnamon raisin bread. If you don't have a bread machine, then the only difference is you're going to use all the same ingredients, but you're going to use some lukewarm water, add the yeast to the water, and let it sit for about 10 minutes until it starts to bubble. That's when you know the yeast is activated and ready to use. You're also going to want to heat your milk up to about 120 degrees or so, which I also did in the video. I made sure that my milk and my water were warm for the bread machine. But if you're not using a bread machine, you're going to make sure your milk is heated separately to about 120 degrees, and you're going to make sure your water is lukewarm before adding the yeast. So you add your yeast to your lukewarm water, let it sit for about 10 minutes until it starts to bubble, and then you're going to combine the rest of the ingredients with the exception of the flour. So you're going to combine your milk, your eggs, your raisins, salt. You're going to put those together and combine those with the yeast when it's ready, and then slowly add your flour until you get a nice consistency that is not too sticky. Once you have your dough formed and it's ready, you're going to lightly grease a bowl, put the dough in there, and then cover it and let it rise for about an hour before proceeding to the next step, which is rolling it out, which you'll see in the video. So I just wanted to let you guys know that you don't need a bread machine for this recipe, although it greatly cuts down some of the steps that you have to do. All right, let's get into it. Hi, and welcome back to Make It Mondays on Life Crystallized. Today I'm going to be making some cinnamon raisin bread. Now, if you do not have a bread machine, you do not know what you're missing. It makes making dough for breads, for cinnamon buns, for pizza, anything you need to make dough for, it makes it so simple. So I love using my bread maker. I don't usually bake the bread in there because it comes out with like a little dent in the bottom where the mixer is in the insert. But I love using it to make doughs, and then I usually just go ahead and stick the dough in the oven. So let's get started with our cinnamon raisin bread. Now first you're going to take 4 cups of flour. I have 2 eggs beaten. I have a half a cup of raisins, a 1/4 cup of white sugar. I have a half a teaspoon salt, along with 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. Now, if you don't have the yeast in a jar, which is what I like to use because I make a lot of breads, you can just get the little packets, and that would be 1 packet of yeast. I also have some butter. I'm going to be using a 1/4 cup of butter, and here I have a milk and water mixture. So this is 3/4 of a cup of milk and a half a cup of warm water. You want your milk and your water warm because that's what's going to activate our yeast, all right? We want our bread to rise, so we want to make sure our water and our milk are nice and warm. Now, when you're using a bread machine to make dough, you want to put all your liquid ingredients first. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my water and my milk. And then I'm going to add my eggs. And my butter. And I like to make sure I get all the ingredients out when I'm making stuff, so I am going to go ahead and scrape the rest of my eggs out of here. Nothing is more annoying to me than watching videos online where they just dump the ingredients in and there's like a whole other batter of whatever it is they're making left in the bowl. So I'm getting all my ingredients into this bowl. All right, so my liquid ingredients are in here. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my flour. And I want to do this carefully because I don't want to be spilling my flour all over. Now I did add some cinnamon to my flour just because I really love cinnamon. My whole family really likes cinnamon. So I like to add cinnamon to basically anything I can when I'm cooking. So I put about maybe 2 teaspoons of cinnamon in my flour before I got started. All right, so I got my flour in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and dump my raisins and my sugar. And the last thing you want to add when you are using a bread machine is the yeast. So I have all of my wet and dry ingredients in here. And I like to make just a little well in the top of my flour here. And I'm going to go ahead and put the yeast in there. And I'm done for now. So I'm going to put this insert into my bread machine. It's already plugged in. And I'm going to select the dough setting. And that is it for now. So I'm going to come back once the machine is done making the dough, and I will roll it out and get it all ready for the oven. So my dough is done, and I am ready to roll it out and set it to rise for the second time. So I have a lightly greased loaf pan, a half a cup of brown sugar with about 1.5 tablespoons of cinnamon, some flour for flouring my surface, and my rolling pin for rolling in my dough. So I'm going to go ahead and flour my surface. And my dough has risen very nicely. It's actually really sticky, so I'm going to add some more flour to this. Now when you're rolling it out, you want it to be soft and pliable, but you don't want it to be sticky. You don't want it sticking to your hands or your surface. So you want to have it just floured enough where the dough is not sticking to your hands or the surface too much.
When I ride a bumble.
It's fake kills.
One time.
Standard.
Baby. One time. It's got to baby. Lego. Passing the prime.
Okay, so my dough is all ready to be rolled out. I got a lot of that stickiness out. So now I'm going to start rolling. And if I find that it starts sticking as I'm rolling, I'm just going to add some more flour.
Passing the prime. Them girls, them a come, them a feel la la.
So my rolling pin is sticking to this section, which means it needs more flour.
One by one, them a stepping on me yard, them a enter, them be 2 by 2. Ooh yeah.
All right, so my dough is about a 1/4 inch thick. Now I'm going to butter it. I'm just gonna spread some really softened butter over the entire surface. And this is just the other half of the stick that I used for the dough. So I use a half a stick, which is about a 1/4 cup of butter for the dough. It was softened when I put it in the dough. And I just left it out still softened for buttering the inside of our bread so that the cinnamon and sugar mixture can adhere to the bread. And I know I'm blinking like crazy right now. It is late. I've had my contacts in all day and they are drying out on me. So if you see me blinking, I haven't developed some crazy twitch. My contacts are dry. All right. So my dough is all butter. I'm going to sprinkle this cinnamon brown sugar mixture all over my dough. So I start rather sparingly to make sure that I cover the entire thing, and then I'll get more liberal and generous towards the end when everything has at least a dusting of cinnamon and sugar. All right, so my cinnamon and sugar is on, and I am going to roll this the long way. So I'm gonna start from one of my long edges and roll this dough up tightly. Now I realize towards the end here, it does not quite have any cinnamon and sugar, so I'm just spreading that out to the end. And I will spread it out to this end as well, because I don't want my ends to be dry and sugarless.
Ooh wee, on the show now. Oh yeah, niggas go down. Ooh wee, and a bad man run the show, and a bad man.
All right, so I am all rolled up here. I've got my dough all rolled up, and I'm going to cut this loaf into two. So it's actually going to make 2 loaves of cinnamon raisin bread with the amount of ingredients we just used. And I like to use a serrated knife because it really helps to make a cleaner cut when you're cutting soft dough like this. So I use a serrated knife to cut the dough, and I do this when I'm doing like cinnamon rolls or my cinnamon raisin bread. My loaf pan is greased. I am just going to make sure that my seams are closed. So I'm just pinching these seams together, and I'm going to put it seam side down into my loaf pan, my loaf pan. And I'm going to put this in the oven with the light on for about another hour to give it the second rise. And once my loaves have risen for the second time, which is going to be about an hour, I'm going to cover them. So I cover them with a damp cloth. I just wet a dish towel, a clean dish towel, cover it with saran wrap, put the dish towel over the loaf pan, and pop it in the oven with the light on. After about an hour, I'm going to pull them out because they will have risen for the second time. And then I'll stick them back in the warm oven to bake. So I will see you in about an hour when my dough rises. Now, in case you're wondering, no, I do not typically bake so dressed up, but I am getting ready to go to brunch to celebrate my little sister's birthday. Happy birthday, Nadia. And today is also my mommy's birthday. So happy birthday, Mommy. Love you guys. So that is why I am so dressed up. No, I do not typically cook like this, and you probably will not see me like this in many of my videos. But I just wanted to take a minute to wish two very important people in my life a happy birthday. Now let's get back to that cinnamon raisin bread. So, full disclosure, I did let my dough rise last night after I rolled it out. I popped it in the oven with the light on, and it doubled in size. And then I decided that I was tired, so I wasn't going to wait for it to bake, and I stuck it in the fridge. So this morning, I pulled it out the fridge, put it back in the oven to rise, and it's a little smaller than it was yesterday. So yesterday, it pretty much doubled. Today, it's a little bit smaller, but I'm still going to go ahead and bake it and hope for the best. So I'm going to pull the risen dough out of the oven, preheat the oven, and then put it back in to bake. So I'm just going to pull my cloth off, pull these out, and I'm going to leave them on the oven, on the stove rather, while it preheats. So I'm putting it on 350. I'm going to bake it at 350 for about 45 minutes. And then I'll be back. All right, so my timer just stopped, and I'm going to go ahead and get my loaves out of the oven. So they were in here for 45 minutes. They look nice and golden. And the test to see if they are done is going to be to wrap the top. So they sound sounds a little hollow, which is what you want. That means the dough is cooked through, and my loaves are done. Now for the moment of truth. My bread is cooled, and I cannot wait to taste it. Now I'm going to try a bite the way it is, but then I'm also going to put some chocolate butter on it. And I made this chocolate butter myself. If you want the recipe for that, you will have to watch the next video. All right, it's nice and soft. This is some good cinnamon raisin bread. Now this is a chocolate butter, and I have been loving this. So I know this is going to be perfect on my cooled but still warm cinnamon raisin bread. So I'm just gonna spread that on there. This is really good. Yeah, this is delicious. Now I'm warning you, if you're on any type of diet, do not blame me for wrecking it if you make this bread. So there you have it, cinnamon raisin bread. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.